welcome back to this course of principles of polymer synthesis. Today is lecture number 4 and we will continue discussing about the molecular weight determination of polymers. Just to recap what we discussed in the previous classes, we talked about number average molecular weight, we talked about weight average molecular weight, viscosity average molecular weight in the passing, did not talk about it much. We gave expressions of that, we worked out a little problem to clear out the idea of the expression, how you can use that in a scenario where you have mixed different polymer samples. And then we straight away went into different experimental techniques, discussion of different experimental techniques that are used to determine the molecular weight. In this case we are talking about the number average molecular weight. So, different colligative properties, and in the last class we discussed in detail about the vapor pressure osmometry process. And if you recollect that, we determined the change in resistance when we have dissolved the polymer into the solvent in the Wheatstone bridge principle. So, basically what happens is that the temperature changes ever so slightly for the solution if you are comparing with the pure solvent. That is because the solvent from the vapor phase deposits its latent heat of vaporization on the solution drop and basically condenses onto the solution drop. This temperature change we do not measure, we measure the change in resistance and we correlate to temperature change, and this temperature change is basically correlated with the molecular weight, in this case a number average molecular weight. You have to keep in mind that when you are determining these colligative properties, basically you are using very dilute solutions of the sample. So, in today's class we will start with discussing another technique called membrane osmometry that can be used to determine the number average molecular weight. Now, membrane osmometry has two terms, one is membrane and one is osmometry. So, basically you are using a membrane for some purpose, and osmometry here it relates to the phenomenon of osmosis. So, what is osmosis? Suppose you have a solution, you have a solute which you have dissolved in some solvent and you have a pure solvent. So, if you separate them by some kind of membrane which is semi-permeable, semi-permeable means it is selectively permeable to something. In this case it is permeable to the solvent, but not solute. So, the solute molecules cannot permeate through that membrane, only solvent molecules can permeate. So, you separate one solution in which you have the solvent plus solute with a solvent. If you do that, what will happen is that the solvent molecules will pass through the membrane, because the membrane allows the solvent molecules to pass through from the solvent side to the solution side, until the chemical potential of the solvent in both the compartments becomes equal. So, chemical potential is a term, it is like it is kind of similar to potential energy. So, it has some potential to do work. So, it will do that work, and basically if you have a solution, your chemical potential of the solvent in solution is lower. In order to equalize that chemical potential, the solvent has to flow from the solvent side to the solution side, and then the chemical potential will be equalized. So, what will happen in the solution side, the level of the solution will increase. So, this particular process is called osmosis. Osmosis is, of course, you might have heard about it, osmosis, it is a very important process, it is a very important phenomenon observed in many biological processes. I will not go into the details of those. So, just I was discussing the principle of osmosis. Now, what is osmotic pressure then? Osmotic pressure basically you have, so your solution side, the layer of the solution has gone up. In order for the solution side the layer to remain the same as before, you have to apply some pressure. So, you have to do some work against the solvent flowing. Now, this work is basically related to the osmotic pressure. So, membrane osmometry basically it is a way to find out you have an experimental design, a setup in which you find out how much pressure you have to use. So as to counteract this movement of solvent from the solvent side to the solution site. So, basically you are trying to determine the osmotic pressure, and that osmotic pressure is related to the molecular weight of your solute, and as I can say again, it is a dilute solution that you are using. These are colligative properties that you are measuring. This does not depend on the identity of the solute molecules, it depends on the number of the particles of the solute molecules that are present in the solution. That is the idea here. So, the colligative properties, for example, if you are looking at boiling point elevation, if you are looking at freezing point depression or vapor pressure depression, whether you are using a large molecular weight sample or you are using a small molecular weight sample, ultimately it will depend on the number of particles that are present in this system. So, we will not elaborate on that further. We will now come to this membrane osmometry process, and we will describe experimental setup, we will describe little bit later. Now, I am trying to give you a little bit theoretical understanding of this whole process. And yes, so once I give you the theoretical understanding, in passing we will mention about the experimental setup to some extent and correlate the two. Okay, so we will start with this. Membrane osmometry. So, you know, then osmosis, I talked about that. So, this is spontaneous movement of solvent through membrane into higher solute concentration. So, you can basically have solutions also on both sides. On one side you will have concentration lower, on one side maybe concentration is higher. So, from the lower concentration side the solvent will flow to the higher concentration side, so on and so forth. Now, of course, the osmotic pressure, it will depend on the molar concentration of the solute. So, let us say mu 0 P, P is the pressure, is the chemical potential of the pure solvent. Now, as I told, you have to apply a pressure on the solution side, let us say P plus pi. So, this pi, you have to apply this pressure pi in order to equalize, in order to maintain the equality of the level on the solution side, level of the liquid on the solution side and the solvent side. So, let us say on the solution side, then the pressure is P prime, which is equal to P plus pi, pi is the osmotic pressure of course. Now, under equilibrium condition, I am just putting this mu s, s as the subscript which is your solvent. So, under equilibrium condition, this mu s 0, 0 means this tells you this is a pure solvent, mu s 0 P, P is equal to mu s. So, I am just putting here in the bracket some terms to designate which side it is. So, x s P plus pi. So, this is on the solution side, x s is the mole fraction of the solvent in the solution, because this is not 1, and P plus pi is the pressure, that side is pressure is higher. So, under that condition equilibrium may be reached. So, that the chemical potential of the solvent in pure state is equal to the chemical potential of the solvent in the solution site. Whatever be the value of this mu s, we will look at that after. Now, general expression of a chemical potential term is x s. So, actually this term we want to have an expression here, so as to simplify the matters further. So, this is on. So, mu s basically is the chemical potential of the solvent in solution. In the bracket we are trying to designate what are the main properties, say it has x s is the mole fraction of the solvent in solution, p plus pi is the pressure on that side. So, mu typically is equal to mu 0 under that condition plus R T ln activity. So, this is from physical chemistry, this equation is there, chemical potential is equal to chemical potential in standard state, in pure state, and of course, here also you have to see the pressure is P plus pi, because you are expressing the chemical potential on this side, that plus R T ln activity. Activity is equal to activity coefficient, which is gamma s into mole fraction of the solvent. Okay. Now, this mu s 0 p plus pi, this particular term, what is that value? This is basically the chemical potential of the pure solvent when the pressure is P plus pi. This is chemical potential of the pure solvent when the pressure is P. So, now let us have the expression of this mu s 0 p plus pi. How the chemical potential of the pure solvent at pressure P plus pi is related to the chemical potential of the pure solvent at pressure P. That relationship is something like this. So, chemical potential of the pure solvent at pressure P plus pi equal to chemical potential of the pure solvent at pressure P plus, you have to do some work in order to increase the pressure from P to P plus pi, and that work is equal to del mu del P, you are changing the pressure, but the temperature and the number of moles are constant, number of moles of solute and solvent they are constant into dP. So, you have to do some work, then only they become equal. So, the chemical potential of the pure solvent in at higher pressure is equal to chemical potential of the pure solvent at a lower pressure, plus some work you have to do, that is designated by this, in order to go from P to P plus pi. Now, you know this value of mu is your chemical potential, mu of the ith component in a mixture, for example, that will be equal to the change in free energy with respect to the change in the amount or the number of moles of that particular species in that mixture when the other things are constant. For example, P is not constant here, but I am telling in general P, T, N, J, other number of moles, say jth species or whatever. So, this is a general expression. So, that expression we are going to bring in here. So, mu is del G del N. So, if you are writing this expression, so mu s 0 p plus pi. So, let us say I am just simplifying this as mu 1. So, mu 1 0 equals to mu 1 plus integral p to p plus pi del mu del p. So, that mu g will g is related to mu in this condition this way. So, you can actually write it like this del n 1, in this case the species is 1, let us say this is the solvent species. So, del G 1 del P. So, mu is del G del N, and this del is still there. So, that T and N2 are constant into Tp. So, that will be equal to mu 1 plus P to P plus pi del V del N1 dP T N2. Now, how this relationship is coming? From thermodynamics we know that there is a relation V dP minus S dt equals to dG. So, from here your V is dG dP at constant T. So, the dg dp you are expressing that as V. So, that becomes del V del n 1 T and n 2. Now, this particular expression I am going to write it down again, this particular expression. So, mu 1 0 is equal to mu 1 0 is equal to mu 1 plus p to p plus pi del V del n 1 T n 2 constant dp. Now, this particular relation is nothing but mu 1 plus integral. So, mu 1 plus integral p to p plus pi into V bar dp. V bar is nothing but molar volume. So, volume per mole. So, this is molar volume. So, in case of an incompressible material liquid, this is constant with pressure. So, this can come out from the integration and this becomes equal to mu 1 plus V bar into pi. So, mu 1 into V bar plus pi. So, you know this relation mu equals to mu 1 0 plus RT ln x, mu equals to mu 1 0 plus RT ln x. So, RT ln x is nothing but gamma s x s, that x is basically I am just interchanging the terms here. If you are, this is RT ln activity, activity is equals to gamma s into x s, x is the mole fraction, I have talked about that before. So, if you correlate these two, then your pi becomes equal to minus RT by V bar into ln gamma s into x s. Now, this gamma term, very dilute solution, gamma is close to 1 activity coefficient. So, this becomes ln x s. So, basically this is nothing but Van 't Hoff's law of osmotic pressure. Van 't Hoff's law of osmotic pressure, and in the limit where C tends to 0, from here you can show that your pi by C becomes equal to RT by Mn, because this volume term, your concentration is equal to m by V. So, concentration is equals to weight by volume. So, this equals to RT by Mn, this is how it comes. So, you know that your pi osmotic pressure is related to your number average molecular weight, and this particular equation we do not use as such like this, we express it in terms of a virial equation, and that will be something like this. In a power series we express it like this, 1 RT into 1 by Mn, and Mn bar you can put Mn bar, that is how we are doing, and then some constant into concentration plus some constant into concentration square, so on and so forth. Now, here since your concentration is very small, some of these terms will tend to 0. So, only these two terms you take, and what you do is, so pi by C equals to RT into 1 by Mn plus A1 C, let us say you have this expression. So, you plot this pi by C as a function of concentration, and then what you will obtain is, so it is a straight line as a function of concentration, and this intercept will be RT by Mn. So, this pressure if you can measure and you take different concentrations of the polymer and then you plot this thing pi by C versus C, and then you can find out RT by Mn. And as you can see, it is an absolute method, because you do not need to create a curve, a calibration curve for example, with a polymer of known molecular weight. So, you can directly put the polymer of unknown molecular weight and you can determine the value of Mn here. Now, the question remains how to determine this value of pi. So, basically this osmotic pressure, you have something called a static osmometer and you have what you call as a dynamic osmometer. These are different instruments in order to measure osmotic pressure. You can use static osmometer and dynamic osmometer. So, you have, so I am just drawing a schematic. So, you have basically chambers like this. So, you have a semi permeable membrane here, say you have a solution, say you have a solvent or solution here and you have the solvent here and you have some capillary here on both sides. So, initially both of them have the same height. Now, when you put the semi permeable membrane, what will happen? The solvent will flow on this side and this height will change. So, let us say this height changes to here. So, this difference of the height, is equal to your osmotic pressure, that will be equal to delta H is this difference of the height. So, this difference of the height is basically correlated to the osmotic pressure. So, that osmotic pressure is equal to difference in height into the density of the liquid into G. So, from here you can find out the osmotic pressure. So, what you typically do in dynamic osmometer, although we will not discuss it too much, is that you measure the solvent flow from the solvent side to the solution side. And how do you measure that? You have some air bubble there. The movement of air bubble will give you an idea of the solvent flow from the solvent to the solution side, and then you have basically another solvent reservoir that is attached with this solvent vessel, this part. So, that solvent reservoir you can lower that solvent reservoir or you can raise that solvent reservoir, and that way you can adjust the pressure on the solvent side, and this lowering or raising of the solvent reservoir, that is related to the osmotic pressure. That is how you can determine in a dynamic osmometer the osmotic pressure. So, as you can see, if you compare with the vapor pressure measurement, vapor pressure experiment and this membrane osmometry. So, you can see that this is an absolute method. You do not need a reference molecular weight compound to start with, in contrast to your vapor pressure method, where you have to actually have a reference in order to know the value of constants. So, that is a relative method and this is a absolute method. So, now we have discussed two methods for Mn determination, one is relative, one is absolute. We still have some time remaining in this class. So, what we will do now is to tell you about another viscosity method, viscosity average molecular weight. Another molecular weight we will tell you about other than the weight average and number average molecular weight. There is another one, viscosity average molecular weight. We talked about it before, but we did not tell what it is in detail. So, that we will talk about right now. So, this is MV, viscosity average molecular weight, is basically this Wi into Mi to the power A to the power 1 by A. Now, you might know that there is something called Mark-Hoevink equation. Now, this Mark-Hoevink equation correlates your intrinsic viscosity with the molecular weight. In this case, I am terming it as the viscosity average molecular weight by these two constants. These are Mark-Hoevink constants, which are specific for a specific polymer solute, polymer as a solute, specific polymer solvent system. These K and A values are specific or constant. So, from there you know the intrinsic viscosity expression from the Mark-Hoing equation, and that A is this A. So, this Wi, W is the weight fraction. You know that when we had say the weight, average molecular weight, the expression was summation Wi into Mi, where Wi is the weight fraction of the species for which the molecular weight is Mi. So, ith species, and here it is to the power A and whole to the power 1 divided by A. Now, and this particular thing is nothing but equal to sum over I n I, you can work it out yourself, A plus 1 divided by sum over I n I m I. I mean here I am putting n as capital, or you can put n as small, it is just a symbolism, nothing else, to the power 1 by A. And so, in the next class what I am going to do is that I am going to talk about how we derive this particular expression, but before we go to that, this class, in conclusion, first I will talk about the determination of this intrinsic viscosity and how you correlate with the molecular weight. So, this particular expression and this particular expression, you can actually use both of these expressions to determine the molecular weight. So, what we do is that we have Ostwald viscometer and we have very dilute solution of your polymer in the solvent, very dilute solution you take and you make different concentrations of the polymer in that particular solvent. So, in the Ostwald viscometer, again this is not to scale, you have something like this. So, you have something like this and there you have two lines. So, what you do is that you take a liquid here and you pull the liquid up beyond this line and allow the liquid to come down after, and the time it takes to pass between these two lines you record it, either by visual inspection or by some other means you record that particular time. So, what you do is that for the solvent you record this time, which is nothing but T0, and for the liquid, that is your solvent plus solute, in this case it is a dilute polymer solution, this mixture, for that you record this particular time. So, that will be say T. Now, you can define specific viscosity here also, specific viscosity is equals to T minus T0 by T0, and the specific viscosity is related to the intrinsic viscosity by this particular equation. Your intrinsic viscosity is equal to eta specific divided by the concentration at the limit where C tends to 0. So, if you can determine this specific, this intrinsic viscosity, that, and if you know the value of K and A, I am assuming you know the value of K and A, we might talk about how to determine it later. So, if you know those values, then you can determine a molecular weight, average molecular weight, which is viscosity average molecular weight. So, how do you do that? So, you prepare polymer solutions of different concentrations and you determine this value of T. Suppose you prepare 4 concentrations, then you can find 4 different times corresponding to the time it takes for the solution to come from this point to this point. So, that will be T1, T2, T3, T4, and that T1, T2, T3, T4 correspondingly you can find the value of eta specific, and then what you do is you plot this eta specific divided by C as a function of concentration. It will be something like this, a straight line, and then you extrapolate that to 0 concentration. So, that in the limit of C tends to 0, this value here will be basically your intrinsic viscosity. So, from there you can directly find out the average molecular weight, provided you know the value of K and A. So, what we will do is that we will stop here today, and tomorrow we will start with how you can determine this particular expression, how you can have MV correlated with this, because we are actually finding similar expressions for MW and MN. So, an expression of this sort might be useful for MV. So, thank you for your attention for this class. What we will do in the next class is, after we discuss about the average molecular weight determination from viscosity method, we will talk about average molecular weight, weight average molecular weight determination by different means. Thank you.